The best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
On a Wednesday, and great to have you with us. A lot to do over the next 60 minutes. A very busy show today. Robin Lundberg does a great job on the WNBA. Women's Fastbreak on SI. Also on YouTube, you can see him there. Dianna Russini makes her Sports Wrap debut. I don't know how it's taken this long to have her on. She does a great job with The Athletic, The Scoop podcast with Chase Daniel. You can catch her there as well. But we start things out in Major League Baseball today. And look who's in the leadoff spot. He's a starter today, not a reliever. No, that's what he did. Yeah, I know. It must feel you're an opener. Like right now, because now there's openers, so you can be an opener. David Aardsma, former big league reliever, hangs out with us on the show to talk about this Major League Baseball postseason. I don't do hyperbole. I always make that known on the show, but this is a damn good postseason so far, David Aardsma. I mean, I don't know what we signed on for and what we thought we were going to get, but it has exceeded whatever expectations anybody has had.
It's been great. And that's the thing about it, man, that we always talk about all postseasons are all going to be great. Every postseason is going to be wonderful. But when you really sit back and you look at this, like each series has their own unique feel, their own unique thing going on. And it is fun, especially the National League side. There's just so much excitement and so many like in rivalries, storylines and everything. Both series are just so much fun.
There's been more blown saves already in this postseason than all of last postseason, David.
Yeah, because we're all the openers now. Apparently, we're all starting this thing.
But I mean, what does that tell you? What do you glean from that?
You know what? I'm looking at this is this the changing of the roles, the changing of that 4-out save, the 5-out save, that everyone trying to do what Mariano did back in the day instead of just roll in your role, stick you in your bubble, your 1 inning thing. But I also think about this is the offenses have picked up. The game has picked up. It's changed with how we can pick off runners and how the bases are different. It's adding other elements, and this is exactly what Major League Baseball has always wanted, was just more action, more fun, and the closers aren't out there just blowing, 3 outs and it's over. It doesn't help that Manuel Clase gave up, basically 3 runs and 1
we'll get to that. We'll get to him.
All year.
We'll talk about the Clase. We'll talk about the Clase spot.
You bring up closers, you can't start. You got to start with Clase.
Phillies and Mets. The Mets 1 win away. By the time people watch this, that game might even be concluded, depending on where you're watching us. But some thoughts on the way that series is played out. Obviously, the momentum the Mets had going into this postseason has obviously meant a lot, and we've seen that with the Tigers in this postseason as well. What have you taken away so far from the Mets and Phillies?
Exactly what you said, momentum. They got in on momentum with that Brave series. I said Brave game. They continued that momentum in Milwaukee. Tough games too. This is what I love. Tough games. They get through them, and now they're playing Philly, the arguably the best team in baseball for almost all year, best team in the National League almost all year until the Dodgers just kind of overtook them with the record. And they're playing with heart, they're playing with love, and they're playing with the passion that we saw back in the day when they went to the World Series against the Royals. Now we're seeing that again. Lindor right off the gate having a fine series, not great series, not like he had before, but we're seeing that pitching. Sean Manaea. Wow. And this is the guy that we thought they were getting initially and has to stay healthy and do this and that. And now we're seeing why he is when he's healthy, he's one of the best, and that's why they signed him in the first place. Phillies they're in a hole. They're in an absolute hole because they're facing a monster of momentum. And that's what's really tough here. Yeah,
it certainly is. And then you get Pete Alonso, obviously the big home run against the Brewers to help send the Mets into this NLDS, and then another home run for him yesterday. Yes. Real quick on him, do you think that what happens in this postseason dictates whether or not, A, they want to keep him, B, he wants to stay there? Or do you think that the totality of the situation, his decision's already made, and he's not going to be back there next year?
I think his decision was already made that he wanted to be a Met. I think he's a Met guy. He is a Met guy. He is a Flushing, Queens, whatever you want to put it. He's a Met guy and wants to be a Met guy. I do think the second half and this playoff series so far, how it's worked out for him, has changed ownership's view about the amount of money, and rightfully so, because now he's playing with what he's done in the past. Like classic Met fan base where they sit there and like, oh, he's washed up, he's done, he's over because he had a bad first half. No, this guy is great, and he's been great in a Mets uniform since the moment he has put one on, since the home run derbies and everything, all the excitement he brings to the Mets when they didn't have anything going on for him. And now he's coming through in the way that he has just been coming through in the past. So I think from an ownership standpoint, from a fan standpoint, they're looking at now saying, we got to bring this guy back, where the whole time Pete Alonso's like, guys, just pay me what I'm worth. That's it. And that's the thing about it. He's not a guy that's going to go out there demand 700. He's not a Juan Soto that's going to get ridiculous amount of money. He just wants what he's worth, or he's just going to take his game to somewhere else and be the polar bear somewhere else.
Padres and Dodgers, how much pressure on Los Angeles at this point? We've talked about it all year. I mean, I said before the season started, I don't think there was a team with more pressure in this entire season, in all of sports, arguably, than this Dodgers team. Now down, they haven't been able to win a playoff game at Petco Park, backs against the wall.
Now I think there's more pressure than they've ever had ever in this whole regime kind of setup, that there's no more pressure than coming into the rest of this series. They have to get through the Padres. If they don't get through the Padres, heads will roll. Now, at the same time, if they do get through the Padres, I think they're safe from the head rolling experience, because everybody's still coming back and you're going to have players healthy. And the team next year was probably going to be better than this year because of just health. And that's the way I'm looking at it, is this team is built for 5 years. They're not built for this year. This is not a one and done. This is not the New York Yankees. This is a 5-year, 10-year plan with this team.
But David, that's
the only reason I don't think they'll roll.
But David, are they the late to mid 90s version of the Braves? With Dave Roberts playing the role of Bobby Cox? I mean, because that's what it kind of feels like right now to me. If they win one World Series with this group and the talent they've had, all the shots at the postseason, it feels to me like they're Bobby Cox and the Braves of the 90s.
I think they're that I can see the comparison without a doubt. They won 2020, and now they're going through. But the problem is they got better. They got better talent. The Braves didn't go out and go get the two best players on the market and then bring them in. The Braves were still rolling with that same team, and then you just didn't see the final. The exclamation mark on it. That's why I want to step away. They might change leadership in Dave Roberts, but the team at the end of the day next year, I actually think next year is going to be better than this year. And that's why I look at it and saying, this year is great. I think they're a World Series contending team. I think that they're going to end up beating the Padres, but I don't see them as the Braves yet. They still got 5 more years of this.
David Aardsma is going to hang with us for one more segment, more playoff baseball to get to with him as SportsWrap continues. Another segment with David Aardsma, former big league reliever. He is our opener on SportsWrap today, talking about the postseason league divisional series. One more on the Padres and Dodgers before I get to the Yankees and Royals and Guardians and Tigers. Boy, that team plays with an edge. I mean, and they are dragging the Dodgers sort of into that spot where the Dodgers are almost trying to match that edge, David.
Yes. It is incredible. It is incredible. It's Manny Machado being the voice of reason is amazing. At the same time, being a little he's just doing just enough, throwing the ball in the dugout. Tatis, he needs to become the heel of baseball. Do it. Run with this. Run with who you are, because you play better when everybody hates you. Profar, perfect. Absolutely perfect with what he's doing, riling the fans up just enough. Tatis then kind of shaking his hips at the fans, doing the stutter step at third base. I love what the Padres are doing. The Dodgers can't fall into the hole. Be the guys in the suits. Go up. How would the Yankees handle this situation, right? They wouldn't fall down that hole. They would just outplay you, outbeat you, outclass you. Be that. Don't fall into this, because this is the Padres hole. You're not going to pull yourself out of it if you try to fight like the Padres, because only some teams can do that. They're doing it at the very best I've ever seen. Don't go that. I mean, Manny Machado running in, changing his line, running into second base is amazing. The fact that he even knew to do that is incredible.
I have to say, I had no idea. I thought it was, I got crushed on X for it last night, and I immediately admitted my mistake. Oh my God. I thought that play was not dirty, but illegal. Did you know? I have to ask you, because I had to talk to my friend Dale Scott, the former big league umpire, about it. And only then, when he clarified it for me, I didn't know that wasn't interference. I thought that for sure, if you intentionally angle yourself into a spot so that the throw is going to hit you, that you would be called out in that spot. Did you know that wasn't a rule? Because Eric Hosmer tweeted at me last night and said, no, I didn't know. Yeah, he didn't know that wasn't the rule. Zach Cosart tweeted at me and said he did know that wasn't the rule. So, but I heard it from all sides. Did you know?
I did not know, and where I would have argued is that he had already established his lane, because he was running directly to second base and then changed it. And then that's would have been my argument, is that he had an established baseline that he created and then recreated a second one, knowing where the throw was going to be. That's my problem is with all of this, is he's running directly to second base, switches his baseline to get into the throw. You can establish whatever baseline you want, but he established two baselines.
Yeah, that was the thing to me. And here's the play. We have it on the screen right now for people to see. But to me, he angled himself in such a way. I thought it was illegal. Apparently it is not. I did a mea culpa. It will become illegal,
I'll tell you that. It's going to become illegal.
That's actually a good point. Give me a thought on what we saw with the Tigers and Guardians, and of all the things I wanted to talk about, I wanted to get your thoughts on this one with Clase throwing a slider. And I was talking with Jim Laritz on the show yesterday, who hit the famous home run off Mark Wohlers, and it was the same thing. He got beat with his second or third best pitch. And it was the same thing with Clase and Carpenter, where Carpenter got beat with his second or third best pitch. How does it happen?
As it happened is that his second and third best pitch are still Major League Baseball's best pitch. That's how it happens. And you know what, matchups and how you do it and how you set up and what he felt like. Him and the catcher at the time, I don't remember who it was. Was it Hedges or Naylor? I think it was Naylor at the time. They're going with the pitch that they felt was the right moment with that batter. It didn't work out. We can sit there and question it. At the end of the day, it was just a hanger. And if it doesn't hang, it's probably off his foot.
But is it wrong pitch selection? Does the catcher in that spot, is it wrong pitch selection? He can't catch up to your fastball. Keep throwing it.
I would always say, Greg Maggis always told me this, if the hitter can't hit it, they're telling you what they can't hit. Just keep throwing it. Pitching isn't about changing eye level and doing this and doing that, doing this. Pitching is throwing the pitch the hitter can't hit. And if they're showing you that they can't hit your fastball, throw it. Throw it 100% of the time. Don't walk away saying, well, I threw the pitch that they couldn't hit. And then if the next day, if it's slider, throw slider 100% of the time. But throw the pitch they can't hit. If you're beating them, beat them. And Clase's done that all year. I guarantee you he's knocking himself in the head saying, why didn't I just beat him with my best pitch? At the same time, when that slider hits, that's the best pitch in baseball.
Are the Tigers going to go to the American League Championship Series?
There's no doubt the way they played in the second half. Why not? Right? This is the Padres. The second best record since the All-Star break behind the Padres was the Tigers. So why can't they do it? And honestly, at the beginning of the year, I thought they had a better offense 1 through 9 than the Guardians, and it just became a better pitching staff. And that's the thing. No one expected Scooble to be doing what he's doing, but why are we surprised at this point, though?
And not for nothing, Jake Rogers doesn't have a high batting average. He's had a couple of big hits in this postseason for them, besides obviously doing a good job behind the plate. Yankees-Royals, we saw the Royals win Game 2 of this series. Concern in the Bronx? I mean, Judge continues to kind of meander at the plate. How are you feeling right now about the Yankees?
You're starting to see some of those holes. You're starting to see the pressure a little bit with the Yankees.
Yeah.
Having to see, I think it might be seeing their road being so easier than the National League side, right? Than we all expected. So with the Astros probably in there, et cetera, et cetera. Seeing some pressure. At the same time, Carlos Rodon had a great outing going, got probably too hyped up into it. And then it's funny because you're watching Twitter, watching X and Rodon going crazy after these strikeouts and pumped up, and then all of a sudden you're like, and it's 3 2/3. I'm just seeing a really good Royals team playing really good baseball, and you're not seeing a Yankee team playing great baseball yet. Reagan's had an incredible outing, for what it was for the 4 innings, but he did exactly what you need to do. Too many walks, but he kept them in the ball game. You see the bullpen to shut them down. I'm just not seeing that Yankee team come out yet. At the same time, it's a 1-1 series. They're going into game 3. I still give the Yankees everything they can do because they still haven't even hit their stride. I'm not even seeing the Yankee team that we've seen even at the end of the year. Judge will come through. I trust them. I trust them.
Is there, and this is the last one, I only got about 30 seconds here. Last year we saw teams with the long layoff, and a lot of them got bounced. We're on the verge of seeing something similar to that this year. Will baseball make a change if we see that happen?
Nope. No, there's no change to be made. I'm going to say there's just no change to be made.
Should they?
The advantage should be the problem is baseball. You need to be playing baseball. I do think there should be a change. There won't be a change at the end of the day. Get better at taking those off days. Don't just treat them as off days. Treat them as game days.
Yeah, I think teams are just trying to figure out how to manage and massage that situation. David Aardsma, former big league reliever, hanging out with us on the show. Always appreciate it, my man.
Dude, thank you.
We're coming back. Wednesday edition of SportsWrap continues, and good to have you with us. Let's talk some NFL. I am thrilled to bring Dianna Russini into the show, which has taken me way longer than I ever thought it would. I've followed her career a ton over the years, and I get to have her on the show today, so I am thrilled to talk some NFL with you. What was your reaction when you woke up on Tuesday morning, or soon after you woke up, or maybe before you woke up, to the news of Robert Saleh being fired by the Jets?
Yeah, stunned by the timing. Thanks for having me. It's so good to talk to you. Look, Robert Saleh getting fired isn't shocking. Robert Saleh getting fired on October 7th was shocking to me, or October 8th. I don't even know what day of the week it is anymore. It's just so early in the season, and just trying to put myself in the shoes of Woody Johnson, who I knew wanted to keep Robert Saleh this year after having an opportunity to move on from him after the end of last year. And, my colleague, Zach Rosenblatt, who covers the Jets as a beat reporter, he and I worked on a big story at the end of last season about all the different problems that that organization was facing. And a lot of it was leadership stuff. A lot of it was just lack of accountability. And it just, to me at the time, in my opinion, it made sense for them to move on. But the owner did not want to do it. I was told over and over, Woody wants to keep Robert Saleh, and so does Aaron Rodgers. So now 5 games in, he decides that is no longer what he wants. And he didn't really have a lot of conversations with decision makers. It's not like he called Joe Douglas and said, what do you think? What's the plan? He let everyone know that he was thinking about this, but he really showed up on Tuesday morning and went right in and he made the call.
Dianna Russini is with The Athletic, also the host of the Scoop City podcast with Chase Daniel, which launched, I believe, back in July or August. And I've checked it out. It is fantastic. It is a great listen. Go and check it out. I want to get this out of the way right now because I've had this debate with people on social media, and we'll know where that can go, of the fact that this was about Aaron Rodgers. Every piece of reporting I have seen is to the contrary, that this was not about Aaron Rodgers. Is that what you're finding as well?
I know, because normally I am reporting that Aaron Rodgers had everything to do it. It is Aaron Rodgers' boat here in New York, and everyone that's on it wants to be with him and wants to win, but he is the captain of this ship. So I understand why there are fans around the league and even people in the league, people that have jobs in the NFL that have asked me as well, you're telling me Aaron had nothing to do with this? I really did not get that sense yesterday, and I don't think that message is being shared to protect Aaron Rodgers. In fact, I don't think Aaron Rodgers cares if we report that he had something to do with this. He's fine with all the power. I just think that ownership wanted to do this based on what he had seen both at MetLife against the Broncos and the way they lost against a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, and then what he saw in London. And look, I know a lot has been made of this idea that, Woody Johnson was Donald Trump's, ambassador of the UK. And I want to believe that people don't care necessarily what their friends think about them. But you have to imagine that Woody had a lot of his friends there in London watching the game and seeing that performance by this 3-time MVP quarterback that they traded the world for. And was supposed to take him to the Super Bowl. I think all of that plays a role. I don't think it was all of it. I think it definitely fueled a lot of the frustrations that he has been having all season long. And I can tell you, as somebody that lives in the New York area, It has been loud. It has been very loud here about what this offense hasn't been able to do. And I think for him, the answer was to move on from Robert Saleh.
Nathaniel Hackett's obviously been, a source of much criticism. Jeff Ulbrich gets the job as interim head coach. They say he's going to get a chance to win that job. What do you make of the decision of Ulbrich, and what is the fate of Nathaniel Hackett, and how are those two things tied together?
I think they're discussing right now that Nathaniel Hackett's role may change. Saleh wanted to do that before he got fired. He was thinking about...
But how's Aaron Rodgers going to handle that? I mean, that's his guy. He's gone to bat for him ad nauseam.
He is as loyal to him. I know I don't have anyone in my life as loyal as Aaron Rodgers is to Nathaniel Hackett. Nathaniel Hackett hasn't done well in New York as the offensive coordinator. Everyone sees it. You don't need to even know football that well to know that this offense just doesn't look good. It doesn't look great. It hasn't evolved. It's not playing into its strengths. And Aaron has struggled as well. But I think Aaron's aware that it's not great either. Aaron's stubborn and he wants things his way, but I think he knows that they need something here. Look, they're still in the Devontae Adams sweepstakes. They're trying to get that done. We'll see if they'll be able to do it. Things have slowed up slightly. I still think they're going to try to get him though. That's going to have an impact on this offense. So we'll see if Jeff Ulbrich now, who, is a total players coach, he is beloved in that building. He's the name I always hear players being, talking about in such high regard. Nothing against Saleh. It was no one ever said to me, I don't like Robert Saleh. It was just more Ulbrich kind of gets it. So now he's the guy in charge to clean up the mess.
Yeah. And what I don't even want to say what a mess it is. They're 2-3. Everybody's 3-2. With the exception of 4 teams, everybody's 2-3 or 3-2. That's why the move is so shocking to me.
But Buffalo's mad they did this because we always see that surge when a new coach steps in.
Yeah.
So Buffalo's ready to see just a fierce looking New York Jets team coming out of the gate here. But I think we're to learn a lot on Monday Night Football. I think we're to see if the tweaks here, if the offensive maybe changes, if they decide to move on and have a different play caller. Nathaniel Hackett's going to be on this roster. That's not changing.
I only got about 45 seconds left in this segment. I want to hold you over for one more if I can, but I want to ask you real quick. Bill Belichick, yes or no? Or is no chance?
No. I look, desperation makes people make wild moves. So if Bill doesn't have one offer, could I see him maybe perhaps thinking about it? Yeah, but I don't think Woody Johnson's the kind of owner Bill Belichick wants to work for.
Really? I mean, if he is, we've seen desperation from the Jets, the Aaron Rodgers move unto itself, given where he was at that stage of his career.
Well, I think what you're thinking about is that Woody Johnson and the Jets just like to recycle, right? We saw it with Brett Favre. We see it with Aaron Rodgers. Hey, why not recycle Bill?
Yeah, that's true.
I just don't necessarily know if Bill is going to want to do it, especially the way it ended in New York for Bill. So we'll see what their plan is going to be. If they're going to switch total sides of the ball here and go offensive-minded type of guy, are they going to bring in a culture builder like a Mike Vrabel? That's a name I'm hearing everywhere. So we got time. It's early. I can't believe we're even talking about this already. But they just have a full season ahead,
Dianna Russini's hanging out with us. I want to ask you a couple more questions, and I'll get you out of here. We're hanging out on this Wednesday edition of Sports Wrap with Dianna Russini, host of the Scoop podcast with Chase Daniel, also over at The Athletic. She does a terrific job. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to do. All right, one more segment with Dianna Russini, who does a terrific job. The Scoop podcast with Chase Daniel over at The Athletic. We were talking about the Robert Saleh coaching firing. It's a copycat league. Do we envision more teams seeing Woody Johnson doing what he's done and more panic? Could there be others? in the offing?
I know there's a part of me that's like, did Woody just do this too early to get the other owners thinking that they should be doing this now too? Because it is so ridiculously early. But at the same time, you're right. Like usually this is how it goes. One team does it and then the owners start having really serious conversations about it because then they don't have to be the first organization to boot the coach. So of course, there's owners thinking about that right now that have teams that are just okay right now, or maybe perhaps in some situations not good at all. The other New York team to me was in a very similar position than the Jets were in a week ago, but they go out to Seattle and they win in a fantastic way, and they're able to just keep this thing going. But Brian Dable, Joe Shane, those are names that I've been keeping an eye on just to see how this kind of shakes out for them, knowing that they've got to produce this year. Nick Sirianni in Philadelphia is another one. He's been promoted to CEO as a way to save his job and face a bit here as he's overseeing both the offense, defense, and special teams now. But we know that this Eagles team is a bit of a disaster this year. We'll see if they can turn it around. And Jacksonville, right? Doug Peterson obviously is able to get a win, but they've been on shaky ground.
Yeah.
So those are really those are the teams I'm keeping an eye on for now. And then obviously Dallas, I think not now, but we'll see what happens if they get into the playoffs.
And what do we make of, look, they just went and gave those big contracts to CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. And there's just, look, they'll try and put a happy face on it, but there's no, you can't hide from the cameras during an NFL game. And you can see the friction that feels like it exists between them. Is it just typical star wide receiver, star quarterback friction, or is there something more there? What are you hearing?
Yeah, they're good. They're good in terms of their relationship. I think this is just a little bit of everything, a little bit of ego, a little bit of frustrations, but they have a really rock solid thing going there. And that's kind of Dak anyway. Like you hear this probably when you have people from Dallas coming on the show talking to you. Dak is really special in terms of his leadership, and it's why he's been able to keep that team rolling. I know they haven't made a deep playoff run at all, and they've come short every season, but you cannot take hacks at that player's ability to keep his team united. He is a natural leader, but also he carries himself in that way. So I am always very weary when I think of issues with Dak, because he's also not an emotionally unhinged, out of control human being by nature. He's just not. He's even keeled. He's passionate, but he's controlled. And I think that's just a lot of credit to him.
What is the level of concern in San Francisco with the 49ers right now? That is a team that is built on the whole premise of the sum of its parts. And so many of those parts are missing right now. Of all the teams that have struggled out of the gate, though, because of the division they're in, I still feel like they're a real threat when we get to the end of the season.
The San Francisco Chronicle has a columnist who, his name's Mike Silver. He's one of the legendary sports writers, and he's my favorite person to read. I have no association with the Niners, but I always want to know what's going on, and he's the best one to read because he knows and he will say it. And he calls this year weird. Weird. The locker room says it's weird because it's weird, right? A player gets shot, contract hold-ins, holdouts. Christian McCaffrey has both legs dealing with issues. They cannot get a win. The only win they're getting really is the fact that Brock Purdy is nearly perfect every week. And obviously that's going to be their next big challenge of, paying him. Is he going to make more than Dak Prescott? Probably. So yeah, I think sometimes this happens in sports. We see it all the time outside of football too. The vibes are not good. It's not one thing, it's not, it's not Kyle Shanahan. It's not Kyle Shanahan. It's not Brock Purdy. It's not Debo. It's not Nick Bosa. It's not Trent Williams. It's not Fred Warner. This is just almost just a mix of a lot of different things coming, a big storm at once. And I still believe the Niners can move past the black cloud and turn this thing around because they're still a really good team.
Last year it was the Panthers and certainly some buyer's remorse with Bryce Young. Are we going to, a year or two from now be saying the same thing about the Bears with Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels?
No, I actually wrote about it. So I read a column on Saturdays for The Athletic where it's just what I'm hearing around the league. And I truly try to stay true to the format of what I'm hearing and what people are talking about, GMs, coaches, assistants, just everyone loves to talk in the NFL. And that topic came up one week, and it was the week that it was really when Jaden's coming out party on that Monday Night Football game was just extraordinary. And Caleb stunk. No, these are two phenomenal quarterbacks who are going to have a little bit of a different path on their way up, but they're going to both be on top. Whereas I think the Bryce Young situation, CJ Stroud, Bryce is just so far behind at this moment. I don't think, look, after we're seeing all these quarterback coaches and head coaches with great quarterback programs revive a lot of these top picks, like we're seeing in Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, maybe there's still hope for Bryce Young. But I don't think we're looking at this situation as, oh my gosh, the same thing that happened last year is happening this year. There's way more belief that Caleb Williams is a dog.
Yeah, I've enjoyed watching him. They got to protect him, too. Otherwise, he's going to get killed
Correct.
back there. Dianna Russini, The Scoop podcast with Chase Daniel. Catch that. It's on a couple times a week, unless Robert Saleh gets fired, and then they do an emergency podcast and talk about that. She does great work at The Athletic. I'm so glad we got to do this. I promise, let's do it again soon, all right?
Thank you. Big fan of you. Love the show. I appreciate being on.
Thank you. Dianna Russini helping us out on the show today. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to do. SportsWrap continues on this Wednesday. Odds and Ends wraps up the show in 10 minutes. Let's talk some women's basketball. WNBA. Robin Lundberg is here. See him on YouTube. Does a great job with the women's Fastbreak on SI. So we figured we'd get him on for a few minutes to talk about this WNBA final, which is good to go, Robin, because we got Minnesota and the Lynx. We have the Lynx and the Liberty, with the Liberty trying to win their first ever WNBA title. They come in as what I would call a prohibitive favorite. I mean, they're minus 260 if you look at the odds in Vegas right now, which is pretty strong when you're talking about a championship series. Let's talk about how we got here first real quick. Lynx dispatch of the Connecticut Sun, who are always bridesmaids in the WNBA. Always in search of that WNBA title they will be. I am convinced of that. Minnesota's been here before, but it's been a while. I got to say, if people haven't been introduced to Courtney Williams, get ready, because you've heard a lot about Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Asia Wilson and all these different players. Courtney Williams is a different sort of animal. She is amazing.
Oh, I love watching her play. She's got a general enthusiasm and exuberance about, her play style and then the way she talks off the court. And she's got, an interesting accent, which is going to get people to tune in. And, it makes her sound bites perhaps possibly go more viral, that kind of thing. What I like about it, Jason, is, to me, this series is going to be pure hoops. There's been a lot of drama and a lot of soap opera stuff around the WNBA,
Sure.
and that's good for clicks, and it's good for views, and it's good for, talk radio and all that. But when it comes down to these two teams, I think you're looking at pure hoops. Liberty, Lynx, head-to-head. Courtney Williams has perhaps the best mid-range shot in the WNBA. She is money when she pulls up off that dribble. Nafisa Collier is making an argument that she is the best player in the entire league. And then on the Liberty side of things, obviously, you got the stars, and people know about Breanna Stewart, who could be the player of her generation, and Sabrina Ionescu, who is one of the few Nike athletes actually moving product right now. But I think the X factor is Leonie Fiebich, and that's why the Liberty are favored. They made a switch at the start of the playoffs, which you don't see that often with a team that had the best record in the league. They changed their starting lineup going into the playoffs, inserting Fiebich, who's a rookie, into the starting lineup. Now, she's a rookie only in the technical sense, where it's her first year in the WNBA. She had a lot of international experience, but she's playing like a star. It's like adding another superstar to the lineup. 6'4", can shoot the rock, and I think that's the difference for the Liberty.
But Nafisa Collier, as good as she is, and defensive player of the year and all of that, she's one player. And the Liberty have so many weapons that they can beat you with. So as good as Nafisa Collier is, from a defensive standpoint, she's going to have to get some help on the defensive side of the ball.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, but the Lynx have been an excellent defensive team all year. I mean, they're like a swarming, versatile defensive team that can shoot the ball. They won the Commissioner's Cup. They beat the Liberty. They beat the Liberty three out of four times this season. So it's not like this is a scrub team. And Cheryl Reeve is a great coach. In fact, I would have picked the Lynx going into the playoffs. If you were to tell me going into the playoffs we get Lynx and Liberty in the finals, I would have picked the Lynx. Yeah. I'm picking the Liberty now because of what I just told you. They, Vandersloot's still producing for them off the bench, but they got a bona fide stud put into the lineup that they didn't have before. That was the difference in their matchup with the Aces. Becky Hammond must have talked about Fibich like 5-10 times. I was, around at these press conferences. She kept pointing it out. And that's something that the Aces didn't have to deal with last year. And it's really something that the Lynx didn't have to deal with in the volume that they're going to have to deal with it in the finals in those previous meetings.
I haven't watched the Lynx every single game, but what I watched of them in the postseason in terms of shooting the three, is that their best shot in this series is just make a lot of shots from beyond the arc?
Well, look, I mean, I think that's the way basketball has evolved in general now, where the three-point shot has become more potent across the. I mean, in the NBA, you see it's not even like it's laughable to compare the level of three-point shooting from the past to now. And the same thing is happening in the WNBA. I think for the Lynx, it's just, you're going to move the ball and get those open shots. Because I just mentioned it, Courtney Williams is not really the three-point shooter that she is, the mid-range shooter. Collier can get you in different ways. So I think they got to keep playing the style of play that they've played. And I could see this being one of those series that goes 5 games in the distance. I don't think I don't think that the Lynx are as outmatched from a talent standpoint as people might say on paper, because it's not like Kayla McBride hasn't had a really good season. Obviously, Collier's having one of the best postseasons, if not the best postseason ever. We just talked about Courtney Williams. Like, this is not a team bereft of talent. Heideman's done well for them. That's why I'm singling out one X factor for the Liberty, because on paper, before, I thought it was damn close, and that's what tips it in their favor. I don't think it's an overwhelming hit.
I only got about 45 seconds. Let me get you out with one on the Liberty. And from this regard, what it would mean for this group, which was brought together for this reason, that they went out and put together the resources to bring in this group, what it would mean in a market like New York for them to be able to finally get over this hump. Talk to me about that for a minute.
Yeah, look, they've cultivated a real fan base. It's really cool to be in the building in Brooklyn, and it feels like a big-time major sporting event. So I think that would be a punctuation mark. Obviously, for Sabrina, it would elevate her status. She's already one of the bigger stars, but it would, sort of cement it. And then I think for Breanna Stewart, it gives her a case as the best player of her generation with another title on another franchise.
Yeah, and I think it would be fantastic. And I'm excited to see, are they going to sell out that place for every game?
I would hope so, or darn close. Like, I don't know if the last game I went to was a sellout, because I looked up and I saw maybe a smattering of empty seats in the upper bowl, but it was at least 15,000 people in there, and they were loud. Like, they were, a supportive fan base. So if it's not a sellout, it's a negligible non-sellout. It's going to be a big, boisterous, full building.
Robin Lundberg, check him out on YouTube, the Women's Fast Break on SI. Thank you, sir.
You got it.
All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Wednesday. Sam Yarnell returns tomorrow. We will have Contender Pretender. We've missed Sam this week on the show. All right, without any further delay, well, actually, I should say one more thing. Podcast version of SportsWrap is available every day. The podcast, SportsWrap with Jason Page, Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, a whole bunch more. Go and subscribe today. All right, without any further delay, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, not an end, but a beginning in this case. A beginning for the Utah Hockey Club. Yes, they made their debut in the NHL last night, beat the Blackhawks 5-2 at the Delta Center in Salt Lake City. I have said this before, and I'll say it again. How the NHL wasn't in a place like Utah sooner is unbeknownst to me. We've seen the MLS there. We obviously know there's an NBA team there. They're trying to make a play for Major League Baseball. better get a lot of humidors because I don't know how you're going to keep the baseballs from flying out of there. We talk about Colorado and the Rockies and how the ball flies out of Coors Field. I can't imagine what would happen at a place like Salt Lake City, where they've had a AAA team, the Bees, for years, which I think is an Angels affiliate. But congratulations to the folks in Utah and in Salt Lake City. The Hockey Utah Club wins its inaugural game. At the same time, keep in your hearts, keep in your minds, the people of Phoenix and the greater Phoenix area who lost their team, who no longer have a hockey team. As you enjoy the fruits of those players' labors in Salt Lake City, keep the folks in Phoenix in mind. All right, a couple of NFL notes. Could the NFL just give us a break? These two stories are related. Jabril Peppers of the Patriots is now on the commissioner's exempt list, which means he can't practice or attend games while on that list. He pleaded not guilty, is that clear? Pled not guilty on Monday, arrested Saturday on charges that include strangulation and drug possession. He turned 29 on October 4th. He's one of the team captains for the Patriots in his 8th NFL season, 3rd season with the Patriots. According to police, they said they responded to a disturbance at a residential address early Saturday morning when a caller indicated there was an altercation between a couple of people. Assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, strangulation, possession of a Class B substance, which was believed to be cocaine. That's another problem unto itself. All of this, by the way, on the heels of the news, I guess you could say, that the NFL is trying to tout the fact that arrests are down by half when it comes to domestic violence since the Ray Rice case. It's kind of funny to see both of those stories in the headlines on the exact same day, and the NFL trying to take a victory lap when it comes to their players and the idea of them being involved in domestic violence cases. I mean, how many, and here's what I'll say to this. How many of those cases aren't reported? How many people now, because of the Ray Rice case, because of how public that became, because of what both of those people, Ray Rice for what he did and his now wife having to go through, how many people don't even report on domestic violence cases? Just keep that in mind. Plus, it feels like Deshaun Watson makes up for all of that in spades, doesn't it? Nico Collins. When you talk about how good the Houston Texans have been this year, you got to talk about Nico Collins. And this is a huge loss for C.J. Stroud and this team. They're going to be without Nico Collins for a bit. He heads over to IR. And look, you're talking about the leading receiver in the NFL right now. He goes on IR, 567 yards receiving this season. Had a hamstring injury in the Texans win over the Bills in Week 5. The good news is they're calling it a week-to-week injury. The bad news is it could be week to week to week to week to week to week to week. You know where we're going from there. Before we go, I want to finish out on a personal note. I have a lot of friends in Florida, a very big group of friends in Florida, from Orlando down to Fort Myers, and some points in between. If you are in the path of Hurricane Milton, by now, by the time you see this show, you should have already jumped ship. You should have already evacuated where you're supposed to be. We are keeping you in our hearts. We are keeping you in our thoughts. We are keeping you in our prayers for those of you that believe in doing so. This is going to be a catastrophic storm. We just went through one with Helene. Our buddy Cameron Maben is in Asheville, North Carolina, and he's told me firsthand about how awful this storm has been and how difficult it is for people there. And it's about to get a whole lot more difficult for people in Florida, who it just seems time and time again are getting blasted by these catastrophic hurricanes. We can all sit and have a conversation about what causes these hurricanes, climate change, global warming, the ocean temperatures rising, the Gulf temperatures rising. But none of that matters right now. All that matters right now is getting to safety, and I hope anybody in the path of this storm makes sure to do that. That's going to wrap it up for us today. A busy show. Thank you to Robin Lundberg from the Women's Basketball on SI podcast, or I should say their website. Go and check that out. Dianna Russini from The Athletic, The Scoop podcast, and David Aardsma, former big league reliever. Sam Yarnell returns tomorrow. We'll have Contender Pretender then. I am Jason Page. We'll see you next time.